for another great episode at, of Professor Kimia's class. So I'm your favorite teacher's pet, Brother Seiko Varner. Today, hey, today Doc is going to talk to us about 5 things that we should stop boycotting. You know, there's a lot of talk now about boycotts. So, what things should we be boycotting? Let's talk. Doc, is yours.
All right, so 5 things we should boycott, and I want your insights as we go further into this. So let's please go to the first slide. The next
All
one,
right,
sorry.
5 things
Second, the
black
third one.
folks should boycott to increase black power.
That's right. All right, boycott number one. I call it black on black, half truths, lies, scams, and frauds. I call it black on black because, so as a criminologist, one thing I explained that most crimes, most forms of deviance, most lies, and most scams are within race, meaning people of the same race doing it to each other. And that happens to every race and every ethnicity, every culture around the world. So for black people, we have a tendency to do half truth, half accuracies to each other, lies, scams, and financial fraud to each other for reasons including we are around each other the most. Those of us who are accustomed to predominantly black spaces, black all, only black spaces, we are accustomed to being around our people. So, one thing to remember, liars and scammers know their people. That's why most lies and scams and also violence are within race, which is intra-racial, within one race of people.
So when we
Mm-hmm.
hear people say that we're the only ones that do this to ourselves, there's no merit to that because the lies, the punishment, the evil happens within a circle. Is that what I'm getting?
So I would say we're not the only ones, but honestly, I care about what our people are doing. So that's one of the struggles of Africans in America for centuries is the focus on racial integration. So it's like where everyone's doing it, and then you're focusing on how to change all people. And of course, Africans are trailblazers for human rights. But if the focus is on our people, understand that humans do that to each other, families do that to each other, but what are we going to do to reduce the prevalence of that? And to reduce the prevalence, it means we have to stop pretending that it's always the government, that it's always outsiders and invaders doing this to each other. So that's why I'm very adamant, and I tell our people are quick to have deal breakers with each other when we, what's up, Brother Manuel? Thank you for being here as always. Thank you. So our people are very quick to have deal breakers to each other when you highlight some of the most popular people who are actually liars and scammers. I'm not going to name names today because I don't want anyone sending a death threat or anything else to me. But people who know me know I've already explained this in community presentations and other places. These are scammers who claim that they have found natural remedies for every sickness. And this is historical over the centuries and now 2025 and beyond. All right, y'all. Holistic, and I specialize in health. I specialize in mental health, suicide, substance use, physical health, and disabilities. I teach medical and health students. I do trainings for medical and health professionals. Holistic health means you're combining all of this. If you're into nature, understand nature has chemicals. Some of the worst substances with the chemicals that are harming people's entire body from the brain to their toes, addiction, killing people, come from nature, right? We're talking about thousands of years of
Wait,
medicines, sciences. Yeah. So that's one thing
I've
I
heard
always
you say this
explain. Mm-hmm.
before. I've
Yeah.
heard you say this before, but for some reason, it's sinking in tonight.
Because you and I did a show previously about substance use and it got
Right.
few views, right? So
Right,
this is
right.
why, as Black people, we have many organizations, Black organizations, and also non-Black, but focusing on Black people, getting our people to understand we're going to keep repeating the same thing. You're going to keep being annoyed, but I'd rather you be annoyed, but you think about it at night sometimes, be like, oh, she get on my daggone nerves. I'm going to keep getting on your nerves because I'm going to keep reminding people that nature has chemicals. Okay? So therefore, holistic health means you still go to your appointments. You still go to the dentist because dentists, in addition to cleaning your teeth, they also can detect warning signs, things like gums that can detect potential diseases. Every human has some kind of health condition, and every human has it that comes from family background as well. Africans, as well, have had diseases since the origins of our African people. And we're talking about before these continents existed, they were open lands with fewer spreads of water, right? Diseases have always existed. I want our people to stop using this pure, perfect image of our people and understand that diseases have always spread. Diseases can be worsened because of invaders and harmful use. But also remember that our people also are harmful to each other. For example, when you look back to the 1980s and 1990s, we had African men on the continent, including some African men leaders who were claiming false things like raping babies could prevent and cure HIV and AIDS. There are all types of things that people still convey. You have entire websites about it. And that's why we talk about extremism, and we're talking about our people who are extremists oftentimes adopt very extremist and false views regarding health. So that's why, since I specialize in health, so you find me wearing my t-shirt that's talking about Black health is holistic, you combine nature with actually exercising, eating healthy, going to the doctors, going to medical and physical health professionals, and you actually have some good holistic based medical and health professionals like neurologists who actually will tell you we're not going to assume you need a prescription medication. We're going to see what will happen if you change your exercise, change your eating, stop smoking marijuana. I know some people will hate that as well, but you got to understand all these different things can impact your brain, your body. It impacts your heart. So people who say that, oh, this stuff is not impacting my heart, you don't know what's impacting until you feel the pressure, the pain, or until you end up in the hospital, or unfortunately until you die. And that happens to a lot of people. So for example, in the early 2021, 2022, Black men, including some famous Black men, were dying from overdose. And the overdoses include some products that people would consider natural, some pills that they would buy from these stores that nobody knows what's in it, and also some things that are considered illegal drugs as well. But just remember, when things like that happen, we can't say the government's scamming to get us. Everybody's scamming to get us. It's literally substances that a lot of times we're warned to, number one, don't put it in your body, but if you insist, don't put that and some alcohol and some other stuff in your body. Like if you insist on putting one thing, that increases the prevalence of sickness and potential death. But then if you're adding it like an equation, and we have data, not just the famous Black men who've died since 2020, 2021, but also we have data about the surge in Black men dying. And again, Black people need to understand that was not because the government did something and medical and health professionals did something. So that's why I want our people to be very cognizant, very aware
Okay.
of health frauds. We'll talk about that a little bit more. In addition to health frauds, we have education scams. I always tell our people when somebody says they're creating a school, and again, I'm not going to name names. I'm not going to name names. When someone says they're creating a school, do not donate your time to clean buildings and your money until they show you your curriculum. And if you don't know what a curriculum looks like, you can contact me because I was a chair of a curriculum committee And what I actually specialize in is helping Black families, Black communities, and Black collectives develop curriculum so that we bring it into schools. The schools don't bring it into us. Okay? So,
That
so
hurt.
education scams include when people say that they're creating schools and the school is all based on, and again, I'm saying this as someone who loves our people around the world, but if the school is only based on go back to Africa, you have to really ask, first of all, what version of Africa, because we're talking about hundreds of thousands of years of a full span of our cultures, of our people, who I love dearly, but these are different cultures on different sides, different lands before, during, and after Arab Muslim colonization, and then thousands of years later, European colonization. So, education scams include that. It
Yeah.
includes this romanticized version of our people. And also, a lot of times, the education scams include you'll learn about Africa, but then you'll learn about a lot of oppression, which I always tell our people if you specialize in talking about oppression, then I'm not interested in you being an educator because you're not teaching us something. I want you to teach us the sciences, mathematics, the arts, the literature, the musics. Our people have done a lot of things for thousands of years that we've created for centuries around the world, and particularly on this land that became USA. So if you're going to create a school for us, what are you teaching? You can't teach things that are not Black authors and Black teachers at all, but you also cannot teach things that are only Black authors and Black teachers who are talking about slavery, Jim Crow, and so forth. You have to have a good. I know, Emmanuel, you try to get me to call this person out, and
All
I'm
right.
not falling for this.
All right. All right. Look, I admit. Well, I'm not saying I admit. Just to be transparent, let me do that. Thank you, Emmanuel. To be transparent, in 2012, a collective and I brought someone to the Hampton Roads area who was starting a school, and we were able to raise $5,000 for that. And I wish I would have had the wherewithal and the foresight to ask those critical questions. Now, if the answers were given correctly, we still probably would have gone forward and raised the 5K. But we didn't ask those questions. And I think that's important, not because of strictly that situation, but it's the same when other people come to us and saying, hey, I have this. To be able to ask the poignant questions that will make sure that everything is vetted correctly is become for me is becoming more and more important. So I salute you on that. Just that simple question, like, let me see the curriculum. that,
Yeah.
that's yeah.
The phrase blank better have my money, not some, not half, but all my cash. This is, see, he got both of y'all. This is what I tell y'all. Look here. And I've told this to fellow Pan Africans and Black nationalists and all types of our people. Again, when I talk about my PhD that I got in 2010, you can literally go to my website and to the school's website and find my entire doctoral dissertation, which is about the stream of violence theory and Black suicide compared to white suicide, with Black men and white men as the comparison sample based on data availability. You know exactly the date that the dissertation was approved, which means I went through the comprehensive exams after the classes. I was ABD, which is all the dissertation. Then you finish the dissertation to have the doctorate. When there are people who claim to have accomplished that, but you cannot find the legitimacy of even their terminal degree, and then they're claiming to start a school, and then there's and we have Black women for more than 10 years who have actually done entire websites and videos explaining the problem of trusting this person. That's you an example of our people ignoring Black women, Black men ignoring Black women, and I don't even
Uh,
talk about. I'm just saying you can deny
uh,
it. You can deny it because it makes you feel comfortable to deny that. So whatever floats your boat, find your lost remote, like Andre 3000 says. But
no, I believe receipts and proof more so than just believing people believing men or believing women. I've
What?
been lied to by men. I've been lied to
No,
by
these
women.
women actually
So
had data. These
I,
women
I,
had data of the money that they donated. This is actually data. It's qualitative data. When people show you that these were the fundraisers they hosted, like the money that you wasted on his global tours that he does. This is actually qualitative data and quantitative because it's numerical, right? So it's not just, saying I don't like him. It's actually data. And I promise you, the moment black men started sharing their issue, people started taking it more seriously. So I'm just
okay.
gonna, y'all can deny it all you want to.
Okay, no. I think you have an interesting point in terms of people started believing when a certain group showed up with the data that the women already shown up with. I'm not I'm not disparaging that, but it bothers me, and I just can't fully support when people say that shows you not believe in black women. We're like, nah, that you're jumping conclusions. But I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just saying that when people make those statements, I think in some ways you're supposed to
I
have
can.
my back, Emmanuel.
I'm
You're
saying
supposed
that
to have
as a black woman who's an educator, and I'm gonna tell you this right now. I say a lot of things, and I know good and well that a man can say the same things with even less expertise than I have, and people take him seriously. And I'm just telling you this because a lot of times people say
I don't see
support
that
black
connection.
women when, of course, you're gonna say that for yourself, brother Varner. But this ain't about you. I'm gonna say it like
Well,
old
hey,
hip
look,
hop.
this is your
This ain't
class. This
about
is your
you.
look, professor. This is your class. I'm
This
I'm
ain't
just
about you.
sharing
And
with you my feedback.
that's the thing. So you have to see a larger theme beyond yourself. Because a lot of times when people say support black women, they're talking about if they see us as administrative assistants during the civil rights movements, when they see us as mammies, when they see us as breastfeeders, when they see us as supporters for black men or any of those roles. And then they'll say support black women again when it comes to elections, but I don't give a darn about any of these politicians because all of them are scammers. So don't choose selective consciousness, selective vision, but then lack peripheral about understanding when black women are explaining something to you. It doesn't mean you have to agree. It means that you can't pretend that you were not told.
All right,
Did you go
I can go
backwards
with
on
that.
this or
I
was it
can't
something I
pretend I
clicked?
wasn't. I totally agree with that. Today we're talking about, and I guess I want to keep us on
Okay.
track, even though this is your class.
Oh, it is on track. Don't try to, and that's another man thing.
Oh,
The
there we
moment
go again.
black men can talk about 5 hours of how black men are the most oppressed humans in the world, but don't let a black woman do an
Uh,
explanation for even two
I don't
minutes, and
agree
now we
with
got to
that.
get back on track. We never lost track, brother.
I don't
We
agree
never
with
lost
that. I
track.
don't go through that victim Olympic stuff. Um, I do think
That's what you just
that
tried.
you had talked about the black on black half truths, lies, scams, and frauds, and I wanted all the code keepers and the fellow students to
But go
see
back.
that.
But go back to that. Yeah.
I'm back. All right,
Yep. So that's why it's very
I'm done. I'm
okay. So
waiting on
mine
you.
on no, it's telling me that my internet is trying to reconnect.
Oh,
Okay, hold on, it's back. Okay, all right. So yeah, so go back up to that last slide, please.
this one.
Okay, yeah, I thought it was the other one. Okay, just fine. All right, so this is why the education scams is important. There are many warning signs that our people ignore, and warning signs include for our people, it does vary by gender because when it comes to education work, there are particular people who are expected to be the ones looking for information about schools and so forth. So, this is why I want our people to know warning signs, to also know when somebody else has warned them about health scammers. Health scammers means that when someone says they found the natural cure, like the scammer whom I'm talking about claimed that he cured his own mental illness, all types of things. When he was eventually brought up in court, he was not convicted. It was taken out of court with the promise that he and his family will no longer promise to have natural cures for every disease. But of course, they would promise that because they'd already spread that lie to our people up and down the Western Hemisphere. They have entire places on the west coast of United States of America that sell his products, and they have entire websites and books. So of course, it's easy to claim that you're not going to tell people a lie because you've already spread the lie. And that's why I tell people, you can see the website still popping up now. So I always tell people that's another sign of a scam when people say, oh, yeah, we're not going to say this anymore because they know they've already spread it. So those are warning signs regarding health. I talked about the warning signs regarding education. Know that if you're told to do a fundraiser, to do anything, research the person because I promise you, in addition to that person having scammed somebody else, there's information published elsewhere. Their entire YouTube videos. These are not people who are bitter former romantic partners of the person. These are people who create websites and videos to explain something because they want you to not fall for that next. Were you going to say something, brother?
I did want to say something. It's right about time that we let everybody know what we're doing.
Black diamond, 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 black diamond.
Grandpa Crump. Yee. Yes, this is another great episode of Professor Kima's class with our great doctor. And this is not a honorary doctor. This is somebody who put the work in. They did the studying, they did the dissertation, they had to defend themselves against a committee. Yeah, this is the real deal Holyfield. Okay, so Doc, are we ready to move on? And code keepers, keep in mind that on the if you're watching the YouTube, if you're looking at the YouTube link at the bottom of the YouTube, in the show notes, you'll be able to find the show notes and a copy of all the data and information that Doc is referring to today. Like, for instance, she has a FDA.gov link here with a lot of information that will deal with rip-off scams and don't fall for those health fraud claims and scams and all that. So uh, make sure you check out with that. We ready to go on to the next slide, Doc?
Yep, and I do want to highlight that people can be opposed to the government, but there's something to actually learn from government publications. There are thousands of government publications every year where even if you're opposed to the government, you can still read it. And Emmanuel says we've got a whole pseudo health scammer as Secretary of Health right now. Well, I will say that this is actually something that people should learn regardless of the political party, regardless of the politician. They all are banking, and pun intended, that people are not going to pay attention and not going to read more. And now with the prevalence of social media, which is why I also tell black people, do not rely on social media. I want black people to consider yourself. What if you just abandon all of this stuff? And I can't stand AI stuff, by the way. Like if you're talking to somebody and they do a quick internet search and AI says, yes, you got a big forehead, and now they're the big forehead expert. Look here. Our people have to understand warning signs of not wanting to learn more. And of course, every government around the world banks on people who do not want to learn more. So therefore, it is 100% up to us and not blame a political party politician because they're actually not the first person who did that. The previous presidencies have done that as well. When you actually, and I share this on all over the place, when you learn about previous tariffs, when you learn about previous issues regarding health policies, every political party, every president has something behind the scenes that they're doing because they know people are not going to read the details. Instead, they're going to find something that they like and ignore the bad stuff. So I just
All
want
right.
you to remember that's not a new thing.
Like
Okay?
Chuck D would say, number two. All right. So, uh, boycott number two, part
That
one.
that ties to number one, by the way. All right. So businesses that profit from addicted blacks and unhealthy blacks. So in addition to recognizing when there are black people who are claiming they have the health remedies, black people who are claiming they are creating schools, and black people who are saying that they're tax preparers and they're not, and that they've got stock options and they don't, be conscious of businesses that profit from black addiction. So this image up here, you'll see that those are flavorful candy, popcorn, tobacco products. And yes, they are geared towards children, particularly lower income children, because of where they're sold. However, I blame adults. I blame black adults 100%. I blame black adults 100% for allowing this to be prevalent in their neighborhoods. So we can always talk about the racist classes, city planning, city design committees for every city and state, which there are black people on those city planning, city design committees. But again, it is still not up to the government to stop bad stuff from happening to us. Because we can't
Okay.
be opposed to government intervention and government control, but then want the government to control us so that we stop harming ourselves and each other. Okay, this is where 100% black adults, parents, and so forth have to be the ones to be like, yo, this should not be at this convenience store. This should not be at the gas station. My child should not be buying this product. I should not be using it in front of my children. Next slide, please. So that's the part one. So this is looking at vendors at events. So sometimes when I go to events, you'll see vendors who are selling these products at their vendor table. We want to support black, but just remember that we're supporting products that target black people and disproportionately harm black people, disproportionate being based on population size. So stuff that's at the corner stores. So when you look in black parts of cities, and we're not talking about the wealthiest cities, oftentimes it's the cities where you can find the lower income black populations, you'll find these products. And there's another image that you'll see as well. So these businesses are placed in high traffic areas, so people are commuting through those areas. So in criminology, criminal justice, we also call those areas hot spots. So areas like with traffic lights, those are areas where you can really also not just track the traffic violations and the accidents, but you can sometimes track violence, physical altercations, and gun violence depending on where it is. All right. So this is also in busing areas, so areas where people are taking bus transportation, and the idea is that they'll pick up one of these products and then they'll get back on the bus. All right. And now more and more people in the
Ooh.
county are seeing these products sold in the county area because, like, of course, I live in Baltimore City, and Baltimore County people are starting to complain because, of course, it's literally just a thin line because that part of the city used to be the county until they rezoned it, right? And that happens across the nation, like where I'm from, Richmond, Virginia, right? So a lot of people in the city who thought, people in the county who thought they were escaping the city based on income level and based on race as well, are starting to complain now about gun violence, physical altercations, the type of shops that they see, because the stores are changing their location because they realize you are just 2 minutes from the city. We're going to have a vaping and hookah store. Like literally, you'll find these wonderful grocery store shopping centers, and you'll find a daggone store on the corner talking about vaping, hookah, and it's so bright and shiny. It makes it look so exciting. I want our people to remember that's tobacco. All right. So there's the traditional tobacco products that people think about: cigarettes, cigars. We have the pipes that old school black folks, like my grandpa Odell, used to smoke back in the day. Rest in peace, Grandpa Odell. And then the nasal snuff, which you add to the nasal, sniff it up. And then the dipping or chewing tobacco. And of course, as children in the 80s, we were chewing the gum product that looked like the baseball. Remember the baseball game product that looked like chewing tobacco, but it was gum. And
Yeah.
imagine what it looks like us little children, we're chewing gum that's designed based on baseball players chewing tobacco. In retrospect, it's disgusting, but at the time, we were combating over who's going to get the most of it in elementary school, right? So
And
yeah.
it was sugar. It was sugar.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, wow. But that was really a nice setup for them to get us used to chewing tobacco.
Mm-hmm.
So when we became older, there was some already connection.
Yeah.
There was
Yeah.
already connection. So yeah, that was great strategy on their part, and
Yeah.
it was devilishment on our part.
Yeah.
And particularly to see now that some of our parents, our teachers, our leaders weren't as righteous and victorious as we needed them to be um, in that struggle.
Yeah, so I don't rely on teachers and leaders either. I This is also something that Harold Cruz explains. So we as Black people have to reshape who we consider to have the central role in our culture, like Harold Cruz says. Black civil rights leaders, and we're talking about civil rights since the 1930s and 40s that built in the 60s and 70s, right? So it didn't start with Martin Luther King Jr. and them. So black civil rights leaders, black politicians, and so forth have a role, but they're not the central component of our culture. Instead, it's black artists, black intellectuals, right? And can you go back to that slide just really quickly, and I'll just mention again the hookah. So again, the hookah is a bad example. I've been to places where black parents are vaping around children, like they have a tiny vape in their pocket, and they it smells good, right? It smells like watermelon or cherries, and they're literally vaping around the children. And I've there's been a few times where I've lovingly said, because I love our people, I've lovingly said, that's tobacco. Tobacco's not allowed in this building. Number one. Number two, don't use vaping at home or in the car. That is the same as smoking a cigarette around children. It literally goes into these children's bodies and impacts their brains. It impacts the people who are doing the vaping. And of course, I had to quote Biz Markie that caught the vapors, because a lot of people get mad when I say that, right? So I mentioned earlier that marijuana, people assume that it's immune to chemicals, but again, nature includes chemicals. Marijuana is conducive to negatively interacting with other substances. And sometimes, depending on where you get it from, it could be fake marijuana. There are some black folks who are making money because they're just giving you grass and you just so happy, okay? So just remember, you just have to be really careful. All right, next slide, please.
Okay.
All right, so these are just some of the sources here. And this is also where when we're talking about calling out businesses, this is where I call out the black politicians. So these are some publications that highlight the history of the big tobacco industry and how black leaders, specifically the Congressional Black Caucus, some of them, not all of them, but some of the Congressional Black Caucus members have profited from the tobacco industry since the 1980s. And we've had entire health conference presentations about that. So whenever black politicians act like they are befuddled, confused, hoodwinked, bamboozled, led astray, just remember they know the elder black politicians before them. And I always tell people, regardless of the political party and politician, they're benefiting from our tax funded salary, right? And there's always something under the table that these people are doing, even when they'll never admit it. And unfortunately, the example that targeted black people from the 70s and 80s was the tobacco industry and also alcohol consumption. So those websites are up there. And you can go
Right.
to the
So
next.
yeah, code
Uh-huh.
keepers, classmates, click the links. If you go to the YouTube performance of this class, you'll see the link to all of this information waiting for you. All right.
Yep.
So
And I'll go faster so we don't run out of time. Okay. So this is the part two part. So when looking at this about the overrepresentation of alcohol stores, so that goes back to we talk about tobacco stores, so the alcohol as well. So a lot of our people are excited that you don't have to drive around too much because you can liquor stores easily. Understand that that's not necessarily a good thing because they know how to target particular areas to have this access of liquor very easily. So look at places like where I live, where there's a liquor store right there, and then they'll have a clinic that helps people with an addiction within walking distance from the liquor store. Some people will say that's safe, and some people will say it's hypocritical because you're making it accessible to be adding to your substance use. So that's the complexity as well. Also, when looking at, so again, looking at alcohol, you're looking at different flavors of alcohol. So if you remember 20, 30 years ago, people were excited because there was Mike's Hard Liquor, stuff like that. Okay. So would you,
Yeah, I kind of like Mike Hard Liquor.
yeah, the hard
My
liquor.
favorite is Nearest. I'm a Nearest fan right now, so salute to Uncle Nearest. But go ahead, go ahead.
Yeah, I
I'm
don't,
off topic.
no, no, you're not off topic, and I don't drink anymore, but um, I understand. But if you know how to make some gin and ginger lemonade at home, Mike's Hard Liquor is nothing. That's manufactured stuff. But that's
True.
one of those things that alcohol is something that's a long-standing thing, and when you look at it from a perspective of things that are not legal, you can look at high percent of alcohol from a global standpoint, even higher than what's legally allowed in the United States of America. But just as black people, we just have to understand that they also have marketed healthy options for alcohol. There's now entire organic alcohol brands, as if that's not still alcohol. And like when you go to their website, it's like, we're organic alcohol. It's like that pure alcohol. I just want our people to understand these are all ways that make money because it's still reaching people who have chemical problems, and it's telling people now that there's a healthy way to be addicted to alcohol. So I just want people to understand warning signs. Also, the issue of store pills. So store pills has been grabbing black folks by the neck, and I'm talking about when you go to the gas station, and these are the images. Zima guy, Emmanuel said I'm a Zima guy. Okay. So when
Well,
you go
he
to,
said was. He said was. So,
oh, was, okay.
he said was. You used to drink. He was a Zima guy. I still
Uh,
like my Nearest.
yeah, yeah. No judgment. It's all about having balance because because I tell black people that's one thing about doing this work to address these issues. We don't want any black person to be judged and hiding all of this, because I tell people, if you're a judgmental person, there's going to be people in your life who are doing all of this, and they're never going to do it around you. They're never going to tell you about it because they know you're going to be like a hellfire, damnation, Bible thumping or Quran or Torah thumping person, right? So don't be that way, because I tell you, when you're that way, people's lives are actually going to get worse because they might need help, and they're not going to come to you for the help. So coexist in spaces. Like, I coexist in all types of spaces, and I let people know you can do that. I just want to make sure you're safe. And if you want to get help from not doing it, we can talk about it, and without judgment. So that's where the store pills are also difficult. When you go to the gas station now, when you go to pay for your gas, right? Literally at the checkout, you'll see these different things, the C cell, all these pills beside the gas station thing. Like the C cell, it's like tobacco all up there. It's pills, tablets, and I just want our people to understand what it is. So it's usually oftentimes around the gum and candy as well. You can find it. And some of it will be like high caffeine and all types of stuff. So just be very careful of that. Yeah, so Emmanuel saying never did understand people buying pills. Yeah, but people buy it because it's legal. And when you go to like the FDA website and other research sites, they'll explain that this stuff is still being studied. It's not illegal, but it's not legal either, though. So it's not like something that's technically legal, but it's something that has not been brought up in legislation to say, what can we do about this? Because it's going to be very difficult to control these products. So same thing when you go to those huge health stores. You find those huge health stores, and they'll have these huge bags of pills, and the bags are blank, right? It doesn't say anything on the bag. Is it like a diet pill? Is it a caffeine pill? And I want our people to understand that's a warning sign as well. They're marketing it towards people who might be losing weight in an unhealthy way. handling addiction in an unhealthy way, staying awake in an unhealthy way. I mean, Red Bull with wings is even unhealthy, and I keep trying to tell people to stop using that, including if you're going to mix it with alcohol. It's just, and again, this is not about reaching perfection, but it's just about being conscious of what you're doing. So if you know you're not doing something that's healthy, just be aware it's not healthy. Like, that's what I always tell people. It doesn't mean you have to not do everything. Just be conscious of what you are doing. So that's the same thing if you go to a store and there's a big bag of pills. You just want to understand that not only should you not use that, but if you have it around children and people with health conditions, they might try it because they're curious. And last but not least on this part two, the overrepresentation of unhealthy restaurants. So these tend to be low cost restaurants. Some are fast food, which means mass produced, like Wendy's. And some are carry out restaurants and some are sit-in restaurants. So tend not to be black owned. They tend not to be black operated. So for example, Chinese carry out Chinese restaurants, the design that's American Chinese food, very unhealthy, and the very unhealthy version of
Wait, wait,
Chinese
wait, wait,
food.
wait, wait.
Mm-hmm.
Wait. I think you need to double down on that. The Chinese food, that's the Americanized Chinese food that we're going to find in Mr. Chow's or the number two restaurant or whatever, that's unhealthy. The
Yeah, I mean,
beef and
because
broccoli is unhealthy.
I mean, the sauce, you don't know what's in the sauce, but I would say the you can get stuff with broccoli and no sauce. I mean, you got to remember people who live in areas who are healthy. So like when you go to organizations that are doing food and clothing giveaways, what
Hmm.
I would do sometimes is I would give like healthy food options, vegan food options, and guess what? There are black people in these communities who actually want vegetarian and vegan free food. And we have like black urban farmers who will do things like make carrot dogs. So it looks like hot dogs made on a grill, but they're carrots and they are delicious. And there actually are black people, contrary to what people claim, there actually are black people who want carrot dogs, who want some artichoke. I want all types of stuff that we'll eat. A lot of times it's what's accessible, what's affordable, and there are like black organizations that are giving away free healthy food. And so yeah.
Intriguing.
Mm-hmm.
Intriguing.
So that's the thing about when you're looking at international foods, including some African foods. A lot of times when they Americanize it, they know it's got to be something. Yeah, Emmanuel saying the MSG. So when you go to like the Asian food aisle in grocery stores, you'll see some product will say no MSG, and some will say MSG is here because they know that some people have that taste for the MSGs. But a lot of times you can look on the container and see if it has MSG. But even some African products, like Nigerian restaurants, will change up how they make the products depending on the where they're located. And that's another example of Americanized, understanding people might want a large amount of food, too much salt, all types of stuff. And again, we always explain that, you know, it was actually black people, and particularly black men during military time, who taught Asian women in different Asian lands how to cook things like chitlins, collards, stuff like that. And so when you see Asian restaurants, most often Chinese restaurants that sell things like fried chitlins, stuff like that, it's because, they're picking up on black American soul food, and it's very unhealthy. So they know that they're oftentimes reaching a particular community where people are from walking distance from the unhealthy restaurant, and they're picking up things like egg rolls. This is all fried stuff. So people who don't have a balance tend not to be going there for the vegetables. They tend to be going there for the very unhealthy stuff with the MSG, with the salt, all types of stuff. And so, but again, black people cannot complain about talking about the city design where it's a food desert. Food desert meaning there's not any grocery stores within walking distance or driving distance or even bus station different distance. You can't complain about food deserts and then not understand that these restaurants are actually marketing to people who consider themselves in a food desert. So therefore, if you cannot access and cannot afford a grocery store with some healthy stuff, they expect you to walk up to their restaurant and get you some unhealthy egg rolls, maybe some fried ribs. No, girl, that ain't black folks' ribs anyway, and other stuff. So this is where black people have to think consciously. People who want to make money and they got bank loans to do it are not going to stop doing it. So therefore, we have to do that.
All right. Hey, commercial break. I don't hear
We
anything.
have to fix our minds. We are still deeply wounded people.
So, in order for us to have generational wealth, we must have mental wealth first.
Check this out. So this is proof that you can absolutely train your brain and your body, which are your servants, not the master.
No idea or vision is too large, as long as you are able to outline the steps to get it done. So it's not a matter of if you can do it, it's how.
How to truly be the bank. Because I like to try things out in small dollars. I think a misconception is that you have to have millions of dollars to do note investing. And it's not like there's a lot of notes out there where people can buy for a few $100s or a few $1,000s.
So if you start looking at it as not a solid structure, but just a collection of things that need to be disentangled, then eventually that wall doesn't look so scary.
It's not worth it to give up because there's other people on the other side that need you to be here. It's not worth it because there's something that you were born with that only you can do. There is an antidote to somebody's cancer that only you carry.
The big thing is you got to want more. You got to have accountability around you. Don't sit around people that are fine with their situation. You got to have people that they want more as well. Because you're going to run into people that are going to tell you, why can't you just be satisfied? And that's the Scarface thing. You be happy. Like in the movie. You should be happy with what you have. No, you be happy.
Just breathe. So Martin Lawrence had it right on Bad Boys. Woosah. You gotta learn the woosah.
I don't know about her, but I've been free ever since. To the point that when she got remarried, I paid for part of her wedding.
And these are segments from episode 4 of Generational Flip, where we focus on.
Oh boy, you think you so special. Boys don't cry. Boy, you gonna fear me if you don't fear nobody else. Why would we ever choose to give our children something to cry about?
You can check this out on YouTube with the commercials. If you want to see it commercial free, go to generationalflip.com. That's generationalflip.com. This is episode 4. We must fix our minds. We must fix our minds. Hey, Emmanuel says, if you know where all the clubs in your town are, but you've never been to a city council meeting, you out of pocket. Agreed.
Yep.
True indeed, God. True indeed, God. True indeed, God. True indeed. True indeed. Okay, yo, code keepers, where was that quote from? Where was that quote from? True indeed, God. True indeed, God. True indeed, God. True indeed. True indeed. All right, so as we said before, classmates, code keepers, if you go to the YouTube video in the show notes, you're going to find all the citations for Doc's presentation tonight.
All right, and I can go through the last ones very quickly. All right, so boycott number 3, Black leaders who prefer and benefit from Black problems. So this is the cult documentary about Yahweh Ben Yahweh that I watch quite often. I share it with people. He was an example of someone who had so much potential to do some really good things, but then he saw the celebration of himself as an excuse and a way to get power, take it over, and he had people kill people. And of course, whenever you have a cult, you're going to have cult leader, cult followers. And I always tell people, when you think that something is a cult, that it's a cult because it doesn't allow varying perspectives, varying choices. It tells you this is what you better believe, this is what you better do. And so if you have not found it, you can actually find it on demand. If you have on demand off your TV. If not, you can go to YouTube and see if they'll let you order it. But the cult of Yahweh ben Yahweh is an example of a black leader who had done so much work and then had the money, had the power, money, power, respect, which you need in life, and he took it just too much. People died, and it's a very unfortunate. But I would want to explain to our people that when you're looking at black leaders, I'm talking about black politicians. That's why I break it down here. Many black politicians, black religious leaders, black civil rights leaders, and many pro-black leaders. They have a very outdated version of issues that our people need to address and actions for how we should address it. They're not keen on updating some stuff. So what I do, since I share writings with our people, I always say these writings are to show black concepts, black theories, black research. The actions means you have to now keep going, and you can't say, well, we did it 200 years ago, so we're going to do it now. What worked 200 years ago ain't gonna work now. What Marcus Garvey did ain't gonna work now. You gotta understand why Amy Ashwood Garvey changed her framework after they got divorced, and why Amy Jackie Garvey changed after Marcus Garvey passed away. Same thing with Du Bois, same thing with Magdalena Walker. You cannot get stuck in that. You have to understand their core, which is the theories and concepts, as Harold Cruz explains, and what you're building from it. But again, if these are leaders who love to tell you about oppression, they love to preach to you about slavery and all that stuff. And when you talk about solutions, economic-based solutions, education-based solutions, health solutions, they be like, but wait, it gets worse. Doing the onyx with you, right? Right? Doing the sticky fingers. It's an invitation, a figment of your imagination. But wait, it gets worse. You know what I'm saying? When black leaders do that, it's because their power is based on preferring black problems. Their power is based on benefiting from black problems. That's where their money comes in. That's where their support comes in. That's probably how they connect with other people all over the place. And you literally see it everywhere, where you're the problem because you are a solutions-based person and you are taking away their shine, because their shine is the promise that they're going to keep their people stuck in a rut that's really, really old, by the way. That's a centuries old rut that we have centuries of black trailblazers who worked to dismantle that rut. So we can't be stuck 4 centuries ago. We have millions, not just thousands, we have millions of black people. Because we have 1,000 years of African leaders who have millions of black people, many in your own family, who've been doing work to improve our people. So notice that someone is a liar, scammer, and a profiter when they have a problem, when you focus on solutions for our people. Notice that. All right. So do not invest funds in them. So if they don't care about developing the black inner world, as explained by people like September Clark and Harold Cruz, then don't invest in them. If they don't care in investing in their people, don't invest nothing in them. All right. They're not interested in black solutions, and they only want us to identify as an oppressed people. We can go to the next boycott, please. All right. So this is where I'm very adamant about. I always tell our people to limit the social media access and overall use of internet. It has to be something that's too either entertaining or something that's going to benefit something. So this table up here is actually from research, where the research link is going to be following up here. So understanding how to determine accuracy and what's being presented. And you can go to the next slide, please. So this is where you have to distinguish fact from fiction. You have to understand opinion. People can have opinions all they want to, but is it qualitative and quantitative evidence? All right. So this is what I did years ago. I removed all these cable news outlets from my from my TV. These cable news outlets, I removed them from my television. So anyone who comes to my house and you say you want to watch Fox News, MSNBC, CNN, you can't watch it. And I'm so excited. I just can't hide it. I'm about to lose control and I think I like it. Okay. I tell people it's really wonderful because I want these people to know that we know that they're just making up some stuff to get attention. Some of it's true, but it's a full range that they're lacking. You can go to the next slide, please. All right. So this is also where just highlighting internet and social media. So there's a lot of stuff on social media every day because now people are spending a lot of time on social media. So when I'm on there sharing some information, but I don't want our people 100% relying on social media. I want our people to find something and then say, okay, I'm going to actually read about it. Okay? So I don't tell our people, like including my students and so forth, it's okay to read some false stuff. Okay? Just realize that it's not only the government, it's not only politicians, it's not only schools that lie to us, it's actually us lying to each other and other people lying to each other on social media. There are fake websites, fake social media posts, all types of stuff. So instead, we have to understand that there are false books out there. There are false articles. Sometimes you go to a bookstore or a library and there's inaccurate stuff that's published, located there. And I always tell our people, you can still read it. That's part of freedom. Freedom means you can read stuff that's not true. Don't believe everything. Just say, okay, this doesn't seem true. And now you want to read more. So that's what I encourage our people. That's why I call it listen, read, think, process, learn, understand, agree, disagree, but continue this process throughout your life. That means you're continuing the learning process. Next slide, please. All right. And so this is the source here, and it's an academic.oup.com, and that's for the image for the research regarding how to determine inaccuracy of news outlets. You can go to Boycott 5, please. So Boycott 5 is looking at individuals and organizations that pretend government and schools control Black knowledge. So this image up here is for that song that I always play. I play this song to students and to community members. And if you've ever heard it, there's an edited clean version and an unedited unclean version, okay? And if you're not heard it, I have the YouTube link. It goes, read a book, read a book. So, and no one's ever heard it, okay? He said, not the sports page and not just looking at, videos, but actually read a book. So you can go to the next slide. All right. So number one, in terms of boycotting people, limit your exposure to individuals and organizations that claim falsehood. Number one, that government, politicians, and schools control Black learning and Black knowledge. So boycott people who tell you that Black folks can't learn nothing, can't know nothing if the government don't let us, if schools don't let us, okay? Boycott people who claim that, okay? You can go to the next slide, please, okay? Also, boycott people who say that schools are the only way to access books. I need y'all to understand. We can go, yeah. There are people who really think that schools are the only way to access books, y'all. All right. The third falsehood. Boycott people who claim that all readings are trapped in bookstores, school libraries, and public libraries. So there are literally some of our own people who will claim that Black folks can't access nothing because the bookstores got them, the libraries got them, the schools are taking over. We can't access anything. I want our people to understand it was Black who were the ones who put our own collectives of books on street corners. Black people were the ones who initiated that centuries ago, where you could go on our street corners to pick up books from a little library on the corner. We initiated that, right? And some of our people have for generations collected articles and books. You can find them in people's bookshelves, attics, basements. So we actually have a lot of stuff. And a lot of us, now we scan them and we put them online so you can access them, right? You can go to the next one, please. All right. Also limit exposure to people who claim that we can only read centuries of oppression. So when it comes to reading, for real, they only want you to read about slavery.
Mm.
Jim Crow. It's okay to read about that, but you can't think that's the beginning of our people in terms of like we didn't exist on African lands before all of that. And you can't think that we're still stuck there. So today I was providing a resource table in a library, and I heard a young black man on the phone, and he was venting to somebody, and his vent included the conclusion that, man, we was oppressed back then and we still oppressed now, we still slaves. And I was like, no, come on y'all, please stop that, okay? So this is why I tell our people, you cannot claim that schools and governments control our knowledge, control our reading access, and that we're just oppressed and all we can read and talk about is oppression. Okay? You can't say that you're still enslaved. I mean, there's so many things wrong with that, including how people understand government intervention. Because like I always say, if you want to get rid of 100% capitalism in any form and be socialist, then that's going to be more government control. So you might feel even more enslaved at that time. But yeah. So here's something to remember. We can actually read other genres, art, comic books, superheroes, all types of stuff. So that was the fifth boycott. People who claim that we can only talk about enslavement and struggles, don't give these people a stage. Let them talk to themselves more often.
Let them talk to themselves more often.
Mm-hmm.
Code Keepers, hopefully you were following along, and every time Doc dropped a reference to a hip hop track, she even dropped a reference to an R&B track in the mix today too.
And the last one is the poet to the Read a Book song. And so one of his stage names is Not a Rapper. He called himself Not a Rapper. So you can actually find him with the YouTube link that I have up there. And he's the one who did the Read a Book song. Yep.
And that's the link right here.
Bamani Arma, he went by Demite, and Not a Rapper, who's previously Daryl. Is it coming up?
Let's see where it takes us. I'm not going to play the audio, so I don't want to get a YouTube strike. But
This is a clean version, by the way.
Rafael de la Ghetto. Okay. All
Yeah,
right.
so that's yeah. So it sounds like
All right.
Lil Jon. When you listen to it, he sounds like Lil Jon. Lil Jon and the East Boys.
We'll definitely have to check that. I love some Lil Jon. I love Crump. I love some Crump, boy.
So it's not Lil Jon though, but he sounds like him.
All right. If it sounds like Lil Jon, I love Crump.
Yeah.
I still do. Hey, I want to say shouts out to the good brother Emmanuel for
Thank
sticking
you,
in there.
Emmanuel.
He says, as usual, another great show. Thank you for this, y'all. Enjoy the rest of the evening and be safe until next time. I
Thank
think
you,
that's the
brother.
way to end it. Be
Thank you,
safe
brother.
until next time. Be safe until next time. Peace, Code Keepers.
Peace.
Take care. Now, how do I stop this? There we go.
You say that every time.